I want to ask you something before we begin. When was the last time you had a day with nowhere to be? No deadline pulling you forward. No task waiting at the edges. Just a day that belonged entirely to you, moving at whatever pace felt right. If you're smiling a little, that's the feeling I want to talk about tonight. Hi, friends. Welcome to English with Moon. I'm Moon, and tonight we're not here to fix anything or overcome anything. The moon doesn't rush across the sky. It moves slowly on its own schedule, indifferent to our urgency. Tonight, we're going to borrow a little of that slowness together. Life has become very fast, faster than it used to be. Faster, I think, than most of us were built for. We wake to notifications. We eat while looking at screens. We commute while filling our ears with something, a podcast, music, the news, always giving the silence something to do. We arrive at the evening and often can't quite account for where the day went. It passed, certainly. Things were done, but the actual experience of living those hours, that is harder to find. And in all of that speed, something gets lost. The small things, the light falling through a window at 4 p.m, at exactly the right angle. The particular sound a city makes on Sunday morning when it hasn't quite woken up yet. The smell of rain on warm pavement. The specific comfort of a cup of tea when you have time to actually taste it, instead of using it as fuel. These things are easy to miss when you're moving fast. Your eyes slide over them. Your mind registers them for a fraction of a second. Oh, nice. And moves immediately on to the next thing. But here is what I've noticed. The small things are not actually small. They are the texture of a life. The moments that years from now you will remember. Not always the achievements, those too, but the quiet afternoons, the specific light, the smell that took you somewhere unexpected, the evening when you had nowhere to be, and everything felt, briefly, exactly enough. A slow day gives you those things back. Not the big things, not the impressive things, the things that are actually yours. There is a concept in philosophy, hyperreality, that describes what happens when we become so saturated with images and information and stimulation that we lose touch with the texture of actual experience. Think about it. When you scroll for an hour, you have technically seen hundreds of images, hundreds of moments from hundreds of people's lives. You've received news from 5 countries. You've watched 2 videos, skipped 3 others. You've seen something funny, something sad, something that made you angry for 30 seconds before the next thing replaced it. At the end of the hour, what do you have? What do you actually remember? When you fill every commute with a podcast, every meal with a video, every quiet moment with sound, you never arrive at the place where experience becomes memory, where something actually lands. The information goes in, but there is no space for it to settle, to matter, to become part of you. The fast life keeps the surface full, but the deeper places, where meaning lives, where you actually live, those go quiet. A slow day is a way back to yourself. Not because slow is inherently better than fast, but because a life without slowness has no place for anything to settle. And things need to settle. The grief that hasn't been felt, the joy that hasn't been noticed, the question that keeps circling because you haven't stopped long enough to look at it directly. All of these things are waiting for a slow day to land in. The Japanese have a word I love, ma. It means a pause, a gap, the space between notes in music, the breath between words, the emptiness inside a cup that makes it useful. Ma is not nothing. It is the space that makes everything else possible. Without the pause between notes, you have only noise. The pause is what makes it music. And there is another word, mono, no aware, the bittersweet feeling of impermanence, the gentle ache you feel watching cherry blossoms fall, knowing they will be gone in days, or watching the last light on a winter afternoon slant through a window and disappear. It is beautiful because it does not last. I think a slow day is full of mono, no aware. If you are paying attention, the tea that starts hot and becomes warm and then cool in your hands. The afternoon light that moves slowly across the floor, then is gone. The hour that felt like it might last forever, and then didn't. These experiences only happen when you are slow enough to notice that the light has changed, that the tea is cooler now, that the hour passed, not in a blur, but gently, and you were there for it. That being there is the whole gift. I want to paint you a picture. Your body wakes when it's ready. No alarm, just wakefulness arriving naturally, like a tide coming in. You lie still for a few moments, aware of the ceiling, the light, the sounds of wherever you are. Not rushing into the day, just arriving. You stay in bed a little longer than necessary. Not scrolling, not planning, listening to the morning sounds, whatever they are where you are. Traffic, or birds, or rain, or silence. Noticing, this is where I am. This is today. You make something warm to drink. Slowly, you heat the water and watch it. You pour it carefully. You sit somewhere comfortable near a window, if you can, and hold the cup with both hands and feel the warmth. Maybe you read, not efficiently, the slow kind of reading where you stop and reread a sentence because it moved you, and you want to feel it again before you move on. Maybe you walk somewhere without headphones, just walking, listening to whatever the world offers, the sound your footsteps make, the weather, the particular atmosphere of a weekday street that isn't expecting you. Maybe you cook something slowly, Chop vegetables without the television on. Let the kitchen smell like something. Eat at a table without a screen, with some attention to actually tasting what you made. Maybe you call someone you love, not to arrange something or update something, just to hear their voice for a while, to be reminded there are people in my life, and right now I am speaking to one of them, and it is enough. And somewhere in this day, nothing particular happens. That is the whole point. The day doesn't build toward anything. It doesn't need to. It is complete in itself. Here is something that still surprises me when I think about it. Research on creativity consistently finds that the best ideas don't arrive during focused work. They arrive in the shower, on a long walk, in the slow moment between waking and sleeping, when the mind is soft and undefended. Scientists studying the brain found what they call the default mode network, a web of regions that activates precisely when we stop concentrating on anything specific. This is where the mind makes connections between unrelated things, where it processes emotion, where insight happens. It cannot run while you are focused on a task. It only turns on when you stop. Charles Darwin understood this intuitively. He built a gravel path near his house. He called it his thinking path, and walked it every afternoon, refusing to schedule anything during that time. He didn't pace it frantically, trying to think. He just walked. Many of his best ideas came to him there, not at his desk, pen in hand, moving slowly through the air, with no agenda but the walking. A slow day is not time stolen from your life. It is the condition that makes your life actually legible to you. The condition that makes connection possible between ideas, between what you feel and what you understand, between who you are and who you are becoming. I want to ask you something honest. Is there a part of you that is actually a little afraid of a slow day? I think for many of us, there is. Not because we don't want the rest. We do. But because when the noise stops, things surface. The tiredness we've been out running. The grief that got postponed because there was always something else to do. The question we've been keeping just busy enough to avoid. The feeling that we don't fully know what we're doing with our lives. And if we slow down long enough, that feeling will finally catch up with us. And here is what I want to say about that. Those things are already there. Busyness doesn't make them disappear. It just delays the meeting. And a meeting with yourself, when it happens in quiet and space and rest, when you're not depleted and running on empty and already overwhelmed. That is a very different meeting from the one that ambushes you at 3 a.m. In the middle of a slow day, things surface gently. There's room. You can look at the difficult feeling without it collapsing everything else. You can say to it, I see you. I have time. Tell me what you need. And sometimes the feeling finally given that space, doesn't need to be solved. It just needs to be felt, to be acknowledged, to be allowed. And then it becomes a little lighter. A slow day doesn't fix anything, but it creates the conditions where things can be honestly met. That is not weakness. That is the most useful kind of courage. Many of us are waiting for someone to give us permission to slow down. A doctor who says, "You need this." A boss who says, "Take the week." A circumstance that forces the pause and removes the guilt from the equation. We wait for external permission because we can't quite give it to ourselves. But there's something circular about this. We feel we need to earn the rest, so we keep working. The more we work without rest, the more depleted we become, and the more our inner critic tells us that someone as depleted as we are couldn't possibly take time off now, when there is so much still undone. It's a loop, and external permission is usually the only thing that breaks it. Except it doesn't quite work, because even when permission arrives, a free Saturday, an unexpected holiday, the guilt follows us in. We feel vaguely like we should be doing something. We check our email. We make a mental list. We can't quite reach the rest because the belief is still running underneath. Rest must be earned. Stopping is indulgent. A slow day is for people who have finished enough, and I haven't finished enough yet. The list never ends. If you wait until it does, you will never have a slow day. The permission has to come from inside, not when you deserve it. Now, almost as an act of faith, today I am choosing to be slow. Not because I've finished everything, because I am a person who needs rest, and this is a day I have chosen to offer that to myself. That choice, made deliberately and without waiting, that is the whole thing. If it has been a long time since you had a slow day, this is for you. I know life makes it hard. There are real responsibilities, real people who need things from you, real tasks that genuinely cannot wait. I'm not dismissing any of that, but I want to say something about the part of you that has been running. It is tired, not just physically, though probably that too, but tired in the deeper way. The way that sleep alone doesn't fix. The way that comes from giving constantly, from being on constantly, from processing everything that life sends your way without ever taking the time to actually feel it. That part of you, the tired one, the one that has been outpacing its own feelings for a while now, it deserves a slow day, not as a reward, not as a treat for good behavior, just because it is real and it is yours, and it has been running for a long time. Somewhere inside you, there is still a part that knows what you love, what makes you feel like yourself, not the performing version, not the useful version, but the actual you. The particular kind of afternoon that leaves you feeling full rather than hollow. The thing you do when you have no one to impress and nowhere to be. part has been waiting, not for the perfect window of time, not for everything to be done, just for you to turn toward it and say, I have a little time, and I am giving it to you. You don't have to earn a slow day. You are allowed to have one simply because you are a person, and people need this, and you are one of them. So sometime soon, this week, this weekend, the first free hours you find, try it. Let the morning be slow. Let the tea go cold in your hands. Walk somewhere without a destination. Sit somewhere comfortable and let yourself be unproductive and present. And notice what rises when the noise goes quiet. Thank you for spending this time with me tonight. I hope this episode was itself a little slow, a little quiet, something your nervous system could rest in, even just for a while. This is English with Moon. What does your ideal slow day look like? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Every person's version is different, and I find that beautiful. A new episode arrives soon. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, leave a little space in your week. Something unhurried is waiting for you there. Good night, friends.